put our arms around the rhythm thing pretty comfortably at this point, I think. You're prepared with the different textures and layers to play the 12-bar blues. You can do the turnarounds, the endings, you know the different forms that it can take, so that's a pretty comfortable spot to be in for a while. Let's turn our attention to a subject we've all been waiting for, and that's melodies or soloing, and how to express a phrase using single notes. It's kind of one of the things that inspired me to play guitar back in the day. I was into surf music when I was a kid, you know, and I would hear that guy play that twangy melody. Man, that was it, you know. And then later on, I got into blues and heard how the blues guys did it, and I just thought, man, that's the language I want to be able to speak. So the starting place is to figure out what notes are we going to use, and we're going to combine notes and rhythms and touch, textures, and try to keep everything in balance, because it really isn't a note thing as much as it is, it's the whole package. It's not about what scale you play, it's about how you play the melody, and we think of it as a melody. The scale is a vehicle, the melody is what we're going after here, okay? Now, typically when we talk about a style of music and we talk about melody, the subject begins with scales, and that makes sense because a scale contains the same notes as the chords. They're hand in glove all the way through. The chords are derived from the scale, and so forth. And in you know, diatonic music, the major scale is kind of the master sound from which melodies are derived. If we play chord progressions on pop songs, you know, that are kind of sweet and perfect fit. Every chord, every note of the scale, they all mesh together, and it sounds, you know, like they were meant to be together. Blues, as usual, there's something a little bit different, right? Now, we talked about blues harmony and about how the three chords don't fit the European diatonic system because they're all dominant chords. And so according to the European theory, they don't really belong in the same key, but they are. And so when you have three chords that are a little bit off and they don't fit a single scale, then where does the melody come from? There is no one scale that encompasses all the notes of all the chords. So the sound that we hear when we hear blues, and I think probably the melody came first. I think that's almost a guaranteed fact. And the harmony came second. The three chords that are used in the blues, the dominant chords, were an attempt to create, using, you know, European instruments, the guitar, the piano, and so forth, to create a background for the melodies that made the blues sound bluesy. And those melodies derive from African roots. So they're not based on the major scale or the minor scale or the diatonic sound. They're something else again. They have notes that don't fit on the page, in fact. So the closest approximation that we come up with when we talk about melody, sort of the starting point from which we will build the blues sound, is not diatonic, doesn't have 7 notes, it's pentatonic, meaning it has 5 notes. And specifically, it's the minor pentatonic. Now, when we say major and minor, we're talking about the quality or the distance between the root and the 3rd degree of the scale. A major scale, the distance is 2 whole steps. That's called a major third. And we hear major chords and major scales, and that's the sound. A minor scale, the distance is a minor third. And when we hear the minor pentatonic, we're hearing a scale that has 5 notes, starting with a minor third, and then the 4th, the 5th, the minor 7th, and the octave. Now, you compare the minor pentatonic scale to the dominant chord, and we hear that they almost match, almost. And the thing that doesn't quite match is that third. The dominant chord has a major third in it. The scale has a minor third in it. How can that be? 2 different qualities coexisting. That's the blues. The blue note is actually, and we're going to learn this a little bit later, but the blue note is, it's right in between. It's kind of a magic note, you know. It's really, it's mind-boggling when you think about it. But the minor pentatonic is going to be our vehicle for developing some phrasing skills. And then we're going to start embellishing the minor pentatonic to turn it into the real blues sound, which is not really minor pentatonic, it's the blues pentatonic, as I think of it. Okay, now first of all, let's nail that minor pentatonic. In the key of A, third finger on the fourth string at the 7th fret, that's A. First finger, third string, third finger, first finger, fourth finger, first finger. That's one octave of the minor pentatonic scale. Now it's easy to tack a note on top there, keep going. Now, what we've got in there is an octave plus a little extra on top and a little extra on the bottom. And believe it or not, that range right there, that set of notes in that fingering position is one that you could basically build a career on as a blues soloist. The proof of that is listening to the players who have done it. T-Bone Walker being a notable example. Basically a one-position player, rarely moved out of that spot. Spent his whole life playing melodies in that position within that general range. And nobody said, hey, T-Bone, man, that's not, yeah, man, you're not making it. You know, he knew how to play the notes. That's the importance of not just the notes, it's how you play the notes. That's what we need to attach to these notes. But we're starting with this sort of skeleton here. All right, so we've got the minor pentatonic, and the fingering is simply one finger per fret. Now, I use my fourth finger on the second string. Now, that's my weakest finger, and if I want to do something to that note, which I will later on, not right at the moment, but later on, then I'm going to switch to my third finger, but I'll give you a warning before we do that. Okay. Let's play through that scale together in the key of A, one note per beat. Make it nice and slow. I just want to make sure you got these notes down, okay? We're going to do one octave for starters. Starting on A on the fourth string, 7th fret. Here we go. 3, 4. There you go. Downstrokes, upstrokes, it doesn't matter. Use your thumb, use your finger. It doesn't matter at this point, okay? Now, we transpose chords. We know how to do the cycle of fourths. We can do the same thing with melodies, with scale patterns like that. So if I want to locate that pattern in another key, I have to know where 1 is. And where's 1? Well, 1 is on the first string and the fourth string. Now, we haven't really spent any time talking about those strings, but the fact is that the first string, the high E string and the low E string are tuned exactly the same. They're just 2 octaves apart. So if I know the notes on the 6th string, I automatically know the notes on the 4th string, or the first string rather. No problem there. What about the 4th string? Well, I can use my octave shape. I play my chord. I've been using that note quite a bit. So if this is A, that's A, up 2 frets over 2 strings. So I want to play the minor pentatonic scale in the key of C, for example. First I locate C, first string, first finger, 8th fret, right, corresponding to the 6th string. By the same token, 4th string, 10th fret. Same pattern, 1, if I want to find that same scale in the key of F, where's F? Well, there's F down there, F there, F there. Key of F. And so on. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I'm putting a little expression on that thing right up front. Now, here's your practice routine, is play that scale, you know what I'm going to say, in all 12 keys in the cycle of fourths. All right, so we start with, pick a key. Let's pick a different key, just to mix things up. B flat, right? I'm just going to give you the gist of it here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it right now. All right, so B flat, 1 octave, minor pentatonic scale, 3, 4, 1. Next scale will be E flat, and next up is A flat, and so on and so on. You get the idea, right? So you're giving yourself that extra beat to get to your new location. We're playing the scale right in tempo and familiarizing yourself with the fingering and with how it lays on the neck and all the different keys, and starting to see the upper part of the neck and locate your keys using the high strings. Okay? So with that thought in mind, go ahead and mess around with it a little bit, get those 12 keys together, and then we'll start to put a little polish on that thing.